of Metrobus. Thank you very much for coming to the studio.
Thank you very much, Collins.
All right, this incident happened unexpectedly in bumper-to-bumper traffic. What could the major cause have been?
Well, at this stage, really, I think the first thing is to apologize to the people of Johannesburg that we serve, because we don't believe that it had anything to do with the patrons themselves. It was the driver conduct that we believe contributed to the circumstances. It was a slightly drizzly morning, and the bus was coming around a curve. And normally you'd slow down in that environment. But in the words of the driver, after the accident, immediately after the accident, he said he lost control of the bus. Now, we don't understand how he could have lost control of the bus at that stage, because it's a route he uses quite normally, and unless he was overspeeding. But because he was taken to hospital, we've stayed away from asking him to give us a formal and full statement of what happened on his side. But as we say it, it's a driver error issue, which has cost us both reputation, it has cost us a lot of lives, and it has caused a loss of confidence in the services that we provide as Metrobus, and that's what we need to clean up.
The reputation of bus drivers is continuing to wane due to perceptions and allegations that major bus companies continue to employ former taxi drivers, and that's why you see pandemonium on South African roads, because now bus drivers and taxi drivers are competing on the roads.
Well, I wouldn't say it's competition as such. When we employ drivers, we make sure that they are fully qualified to drive a buses, which is a Code 14 vehicle, plus they should have their professional driving permit, which is, you get that only once you've been certified competent to drive a public operating vehicle, such as a bus. The issue of taxis, I think, is neither here nor there. What disappoints me personally is that our conduct has regressed to that of other operators, such as maybe taxis and the like. Metrobus historically has always had meticulously well-disciplined drivers, and this culture that's creeping in is what we have to stop.
It continues to worry, because sometimes when you are driving in Johannesburg, you see a Metrobus on the rear via bus lane, which is supposed to be the other way around.
Well, that's one of the things I have been addressing. Last week, immediately after the accident, I think the accident happened on Friday with a long weekend. On Tuesday, first thing, I got everybody to talk about that aspect, and we'll continue talking about it, that we are part of the legal institutions in the country. We can't be the ones to break the law. Rear via lanes are reserved for that. We are operating on the cap side, and our drivers need to retain that. There's no reason to try and move into the rear via lane, and to say you're trying to save on time doesn't work, because your timetable gives you enough time to move from point A to point B, and we need to be diligent in ensuring that discipline happens. My sense is also that as management, we've not meticulously enforced that, and that's why drivers almost feel they can do as they think is appropriate or in their discretion, and that's not correct.
Okay.
We need to introduce discipline on how drivers behave when they're behind the steering wheel.
I'd like you to enlighten me. When somebody comes, has a Code 14 license and qualifies to be a Metrobus driver, what kind of training does he have to undergo? Secondly, if you are going to now give them more training on being proficient and eloquent and very good customer care-oriented bus drivers, what kind of training are you going to subject them to?
Well, I think driving as such, whatever vehicle you are driving, is governed by the statute of the country. There's legislation that says for this kind of vehicle you need this kind of license, and this is the formal training you go through. What we are sensing is that because we're in the public service environment, there is a need to be that much more conscious. For an example, an articulated truck driver who's carrying a load of petrol has the same credentials as a bus driver, save for the professional driving license. I'm saying the commodity you are carrying as an articulated driver vehicle is not the same as driving 50 people who are responsible for driving the economy of Johannesburg. So you should be that much more conscious of that fact and be much more restrained in how you behave. Secondly, there's other aspects around relations with your customers, which also needs to be improved, because you're dealing with people. If they're 2 minutes late at work, it sometimes can be a big issue for some people. They can lose their jobs. So you need to build a relationship so that your conduct meets the expectation of your customers in that environment. There's other things as well, as we're going into green bus operations, where you're using gas instead of diesel. We want to train them to be able to use that quite effectively for the company. But there's a lot more skills. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, the safety of the customer in inclement or marginal weather conditions cannot be compromised.
Okay, we've run out of time. Very briefly, what can we expect regarding the disciplinary steps you're going to take against your driver?
Well, one, I want to have an independent outside a professional to preside over the hearing, and we'll charge the driver with the negligent driving and the what you call the loss of life that he has caused us.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for coming to the studio.
Colin, and thanks to South Africa.
All right, we are speaking to Mr. Mavela Dalmini of Metrobus, who is giving us an update on the Metrobus situation. Remember the accident that had happened a month ago. Well, let's move on to